You could serve it by itself, it's delicious, but also got a little olive oil with some balsamic vinegar, and then a little bit of the now you've got me saying dookie. Hey everyone, I'm Sav and this is Lagom Eats. Today we're going to be making the very trendy focaccia art. It's a really simple focaccia recipe topped with a variety of herbs and vegetables to make a beautiful decorated focaccia. I'm sure you guys have seen these all over social media. Let's take a look at the ingredients. For the focaccia, we're going to use 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, a packet of instant yeast, 1 1/4 cup of warm water, some sea salt flakes, a little bit of olive oil. Then for the toppings, we've got some bell peppers, cherry tomatoes, olives, a Fresno pepper, red onion, some cilantro, and chives. Let's get baking. Let's start by forming our dough. We're using a KitchenAid mixer with a dough hook today. You can do this by hand, but it's a lot easier with our KitchenAid mixer. We're gonna do 3 cups of all-purpose flour. So again, I know I've said this in my burger bun recipe, but never scoop out the flour like this. You're gonna get 150% more flour. And then we're gonna have a dense and dry focaccia. So what you wanna do is spoon the flour into your measuring cup like this, all the way up to the top. Take the back of your knife and level it out. And that's a properly measured cup of flour. Pour it into there, and we'll do that 2 more times. Now we're gonna add our packet of instant yeast. It's about 2 teaspoons. Pour that in. Let's get that a little bit. Mix up that yeast, because we're gonna put in the salt, and you never wanna pour salt directly on yeast because it could kill it. So now a teaspoon of kosher salt. Dump that in. Let's mix that up a little bit. And while that's on low, we're going to dump in our 1 1/4 cup of warm water. You want the warm water to be about like 80 to 90 degrees. But if you don't want to actually take the temperature of it, just put your wrist underneath the sink water, and if it's warm to your wrist, then it's probably good to go. If it's too hot, it's gonna kill the yeast. So 80 to 90 degrees is the perfect temperature that the yeast like to grow. It'll create all that carbon dioxide. That's gonna make a really light and fluffy bread with lots of air pockets. So use your rubber spatula, get all that flour down so it can be incorporated into our dough. Just let your mixer knead it for like probably about 5-ish minutes until it all comes together. Our dough is gonna be slightly sticky, but it's more elastic and soft. It's not gonna be like super duper sticky. I'll show you guys. Flour is going everywhere. Okay, so our dough has come together. As you can see, it's cleaned up the sides of the bowl. Let's stop it. You can see it's kind of sticky, but it's not super tacky. This is kind of the consistency. It's nice and elastic, and it'll stick to your fingers a little bit, but not a ton. We gotta prep our bowl now. So take a pretty large size mixing bowl, some olive oil, pour, I don't know, about a tablespoon of olive oil in there. You just wanna be able to coat the whole bowl so your dough doesn't stick. So just kind of run it around the sides. Okay. Now we're going to take out our dough. I'm gonna dampen my hands just a little bit so the dough doesn't stick as much. Okay, my hands are a little wet and that looks nasty, but it's gonna be easier to shape our dough now. So it doesn't, I always say this, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just gonna kind of shape it into a little ball, just kind of pull the sides out, tuck them into the center, like again we did with the burger buns, to shape those into our little balls. And then you're kind of gonna use You're gonna use the friction of the cutting board, if your cutting board doesn't move like that, and kind of pull it towards you to make a bit of a ball. Like that, just drop it in there. Take your bowl and then kind of coat the bowl with the dough so it's all nice and oily. There we go. So now we're gonna put some plastic wrap over this and we're gonna let it rise for 1 hour. What I like to do, because you want the temperature to be about like 78, 80 degrees, which my kitchen is not, I'm gonna turn on my oven to 200 degrees for like 2 minutes, turn it off. I'll put the bowl in there so it can rise in a warmer area. All right, let's chop up our veggies. Now, we're making a focaccia, we're gonna just make a beautiful picture on it. So it's really up to you how you want to decorate this focaccia. I right now don't even know exactly how I want this to be done. I've made it a few times and each one turns out completely different. So I'm just gonna chop up my veggies in just a variety of different sizes and shapes, and we'll go from there, see what happens. Okay, so I've got some strips of onion. Those will look nice. Chop up some strips of bell pepper. I'm gonna make some almost like petal-like shapes. So see, if you put like kind of a center, you could have this as a little flower petal. You can make some nice sunflowers. If you guys make this recipe, I would love it if you would use the hashtag Lagom Eats, tag Lagom Eats. I would love to see your guys' decorated focaccias. I'm not necessarily the most artsy person, so I'm sure a lot of you guys are artistic and artists out there, so your guys' focaccia art is gonna be amazing. Our dough is ready. It's been rising for an hour. So as you can see, it has more than doubled in size. All right, so first thing we gotta do is prepare our pan before we dump that out. So you're gonna use a 9 by 13, either ceramic pan like this, or you can use a metal pan. Put in quite a bit of olive oil. You wanna make sure the bottom is coated so our bread doesn't stick, and also we want that flavor of the olive oil. Whenever you go to Italy, you'll have some kind of focaccia bread on your table with some olive oil and vinegar. Absolutely delicious. Okay, so now another flavor we want in there is sea salt. So we're gonna coat the bottom of our pan with a little bit of sea salt flakes. That way both the top and the bottom are seasoned. Now we'll just dump out our dough into our pan. Dump that out. Look at all those bubbles. So now what we want to do is gently kind of spread it all around until it's at the corners. Just push it. You don't want to push out all those air bubbles because that's what's giving us that fluffy bread, but just as gently as possible, spread it out. Okay, now what we're gonna do is pour some more olive oil on top of it. Then kind of you're gonna dimple the bread a little bit with your fingers like this and get all that olive oil in there. But again, don't go all the way to the bottom and break up all those air bubbles. Now we take our sea salt again and sprinkle it all over. Now we're gonna cover this with plastic wrap, set it to the side and let it rise for another 30 minutes. Our focaccia has risen for 30 minutes. Our oven is preheated to 450. Let's make our beautiful picture now with all our veggies and herbs. So again, I cut up these in just a variety of shapes and sizes. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with them at this point, but let's see. So I do know I want to make a little flower, so a little sunflower. Let's use this little chive as the stem. There. We're gonna use some of these olives for the kind of center of the flower. Use some yellow little petals that I made. All right, this is better. Let's put that there. And these veggies, obviously when they're in the oven, they're gonna shrink up a bit. So the first time I made this, I didn't put enough veggies on because it looked full, but once it baked in the oven, it shrunk up and it didn't look as full. So kind of make them pretty close together. I'm gonna use some of these little cilantro leaves for the leaves of our flower. Look how cute this is. We've got our 3 little flowers and a bunch of veggies and herbs to decorate. This would be a fun baking project to do with your kids, or an absolutely beautiful centerpiece to have on your table when friends come over. So now we're gonna drizzle a little bit more olive oil on it to coat our veggies. So now we're gonna put this in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes, and you're gonna wanna rotate it halfway through. Our focaccia is out of the oven. It looks super cute. but we need to let it cool down for about 10 minutes before we take it out. I'm so excited with how it turned out. This would be an amazing centerpiece for your dinner party. It's absolutely delicious alone, but I have a little sauce to go along with it. We've got some olive oil, poured a little balsamic vinegar, and sprinkled with a little of the dukkha that I made in the salad recipe. So let's cut into this. It's a little crunchy on the edges, but super soft. Just gonna cut a little piece. Look how soft it is and fluffy. It looks incredible. All right, let's dip it in this olive oil and balsamic. You can really taste that olive oil flavor and that sea salt. So amazing. And then when you get those little bites of tomato or bell pepper, just adds a little bit of flavor to it. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make focaccia art. The full recipe can be found on my food blog at lagomeats.com. I've got new delicious dishes coming out every Thursday, so hit a like and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Hey do!